If you walk into a cave deep underground and turn off all the lights, you do not actually see pure black. Your vision instantly fills with a chaotic, static-like shifting gray noise called Eigengrau. Since there are exactly 0 photons of light hitting your eyes, what is your brain actually looking at? For your entire life, you have been lied to about the dark. You think you know what pitch black looks like, but you don't. Pure, perfect obsidian black does not exist in the human visual system. It is a biological impossibility. If you lock yourself in a perfectly sealed, light-proof room, your brain will absolutely refuse to give you a black screen. Instead, it gives you a baseline dial tone, a phenomenon called Eigengrau. It translates from German as Intrinsic Grey. It is the biological static of a system that physically cannot turn off. To understand why your eyes do this, you have to look at the actual hardware inside your skull. Think of your eye like a highly advanced digital camera. At the back of your eye, lining the retina, you have a screen made of 2 completely different types of biological pixels, cones and rods. Cones are the divas of the human visual system. You have about 6 million of them, mostly packed right into the center of your vision. They give you high-resolution detail and vibrant color, but they are incredibly greedy. They require a massive amount of light energy to function. The moment the sun goes down or the lights turn off, your cones effectively shut down. They become useless. That is when the heavy lifters take over, the rods. You have about 120 million rods, mostly clustered around the peripheral edges of your vision. Their entire existence is dedicated to one single task: seeing in the dark. They cannot see color, they only see in grayscale. And when the lights go out, these rods panic. They immediately begin flooding your eyes with a light-sensitive protein called rhodopsin. Rhodopsin, sometimes called visual purple, is arguably the most powerful light-detecting chemical on planet Earth. But there is a catch. The adaptation is not instant. If you have ever walked from a bright, sunny day straight into a dark movie theater, you know that you are completely blind for the first few minutes. This is because intense light actually destroys rhodopsin. It bleaches the chemical, resetting it to 0. It takes the human eye a surprisingly long time to rebuild this chemical armory. It takes 10 minutes in the dark for your eyes to become 10 times more sensitive. It takes 20 minutes to become 100 times more sensitive. But it takes a full 45 minutes of absolute, uninterrupted darkness for your eyes to fully regenerate their rhodopsin supply. Once you hit that 45-minute mark, your biological hardware has reached its maximum calibration. You are now operating at a level of sensitivity that is almost supernatural. In a perfectly controlled laboratory environment, physicists and biologists have proven that a fully dark-adapted human eye can detect a single, solitary photon of light. Just one tiny microscopic packet of light energy hitting your retina is enough to trigger a neural signal to your brain. It is the biological equivalent of turning your camera's ISO setting up to 1 million. But there is a massive problem. In the world of optics, extreme sensitivity comes with a heavy price. When you crank the sensitivity of a receiver that high, you get noise. In a digital camera, if you try to film in the dark with a high ISO, your footage will be ruined by a thick layer of shifting grain. That grain is caused by electrical interference within the camera's circuitry. In your face, the noise is biological, and more specifically, it's thermal. Your eyes are warm. You're a warm-blooded mammal, and your eyeballs are filled with vibrating, living cells that are constantly generating around 98.6 degrees of internal body heat. Because your night vision chemical is so hypersensitive, it starts making mistakes. The rhodopsin molecules vibrate, they bounce around, they hit each other, and they spontaneously trigger a false positive. Biologists call this spontaneous thermal isomerization. The chemical is so dangerously sensitive that it mistakes the kinetic heat of your own body for incoming light. Your brain receives a signal from the optic nerve and says, "I see light." But there is no light. You are quite literally watching your own body heat burn into your vision. Every speck of gray static you see in the dark, every pixel of Eigengrau is just the mathematical average of your eyeballs being warm. But the glitch goes even deeper, because the eye is only half of the visual equation. The other half is the processor, your visual cortex. The visual cortex is located at the back of your brain, and it is a massive, data-hungry processing center. In the daylight, it processes gigabytes of external information every single second. It is obsessed with input. When you cut that cord and step into total darkness, the visual cortex hates it. It despises a zero-data environment. It registers the lack of input as a catastrophic biological malfunction. It assumes the neuronal connection to the outside world has been completely severed. So to test the connection, the brain enters a sandbox mode. It forces the neurons in your visual system to fire randomly, just to make sure the physical wires still work. This creates something called phosphenes. You start seeing sudden flashes of dim color. You see swirling, abstract geometry collapsing in on itself. You see bizarre, formless hallucinations floating in the dark. Your brain is essentially running a biological screensaver just to keep the visual hard drive from completely crashing. If you are trapped in the dark for hours or days, this biological screensaver upgrades into a terrifying psychological phenomenon known as the Ganzfeld effect. When the brain is completely starved of visual and auditory input, it refuses to accept the silence. If the environment will not provide data, the brain will manufacture it. Cave explorers who spend days in total darkness, or miners trapped underground, frequently report experiencing hyper-realistic hallucinations. They see glowing landscapes, floating faces, and perfectly clear architectural structures painted into the void. Psychologists refer to this as prisoner's cinema. It is the human brain frantically projecting its own internal memory banks onto the blank canvas of Eigengrau, desperately trying to keep its spatial processing centers from shutting down. It sounds like a massive biological flaw. It sounds like human architecture is deeply broken. We cannot see perfect black. We mistake our own body heat for light, and our brains hallucinate entirely fake worlds when they get bored. Why would evolution leave us with such a buggy operating system? Why not just filter out the heat? Why not give us the flawless, piercing night vision of a cat or a wolf or an owl? Nocturnal predators have a biological mirror installed in the back of their eyes called the tapetum lucidum. If you shine a flashlight into the woods at night and see a pair of glowing eyes looking back at you, that is the tapetum lucidum reflecting light back through the retina for a second pass. It effectively doubles their night vision capability. Humans do not have this mirror. We lost it millions of years ago. When our ancient primate ancestors evolved to become diurnal, meaning we operated primarily in the bright daylight of the sun, evolution stripped away the eye-shine mirror. It wasn't necessary anymore. We invested heavily in our high-resolution, color-detecting cones so we could spot ripe fruit in the trees and judge the emotional blushing of our tribe members. When we finally came down from the trees and started hunting on the savanna, we were left with a patched-together system. When the sun went down, early humans were essentially blind compared to the apex predators hunting them. We were forced to rely on the raw, unpolished sensitivity of rhodopsin to keep us alive. We traded perfect visual silence for extreme sensitivity. Evolution faced a ruthless choice. If the human brain developed a filter to block out the Eigengrau, if it successfully deleted that annoying thermal static, it would also filter out the incredibly faint, nearly invisible silhouette of a leopard stalking you in the tall grass. Eigengrau is not a glitch. It is the cost of survival. It is the necessary operating hum of a desperate, hypersensitive alarm system. Evolution deemed that it was far better to hallucinate 1,000 false threats in the dark than to miss the one real threat that was about to kill you. So the next time you were lying in bed, staring into the dark of your room, do not be unnerved by the static. Do not be afraid of the shifting gray noise. It just means the alarm is on. You are looking at the impossible, imperfect perfection of your own visual hardware. You are watching an ancient biological calibration that kept your ancestors from becoming prey. If this completely changed how you view your own eyes, hit the like button so this video can break through the algorithm. And if you want to uncover more bizarre, terrifying glitches in the human operating system, make sure to subscribe, drop a comment below right now, and tell me, when you close your eyes in a dark room, what shape is the static you see? Is it just gray noise, or do you see swirling colors and phosphenes? I'll be reading all of your experiences down there. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.